This weekend, the GB3 Championship, in association with the British Racing Drivers Club, comes to Oulton Park. We had a race yesterday that was won by Zach O'Sullivan. Yet another victory for the man who is scampering away in the championship race. That was his 5th win of the season. And around this picturesque Cheshire circuit, we are set for race 2 based on a driver's second best qualifying time, and this promises to be a very interesting race indeed, because in theory, if he kicks out of trouble and scores points, it will take Zach one further step closer to winning the championship. There's another event, another 3 races yet to come, of course, at Donington in October. But it could be that by the end of the day we have a new champion in this, of course, newly titled GB3 Championship. David Addison trackside, so too lots of fans, because major meetings at Oulton Park always bring out the fans. GT and F3 style cars, GB3 under its new name, always bring people trackside as well, and they are in for a treat. Busy day of racing. Sunday at Oulton Park means everything is, because of local bylaws, crammed into the afternoon. You can't fire up engines until 12 o'clock, so it is a short, sharp afternoon of racing. And when the GB3 cars are released onto the circuit very shortly, there are going to be lots and lots of fans, which is great to see, all enjoying the racing. Yesterday, the result was Zach O'Sullivan ahead of newcomer to the championship, Luke Browning. Luke was then disqualified because the plank underneath the car was deemed to have worn away too much outside the tolerance that he's given. Shades of 1994 in the Spa Grand Prix, you might think. But anyway, the net result was that the decision wasn't appealed and the Fortec driver was excluded. It doesn't really matter in a sense, because he's not fighting for the championship. Now we'll see exactly what sort of pace he's able to elicit from that car as the field accelerates out on track. Javier Sagrera making his way down the hill. He was 7th in yesterday's race, and this race today, 13 laps or 20 minutes, depending on which comes first. Bearing in mind, of course, that the full international circuit at Oulton Park is a long one. It's 2.69 miles long, and already we've got people in strife, and that's Frederick Lubin, who has had a spin on his way down the avenue, on his way to the grid. The ALVAREZ Motorsport car facing the wrong way. Now, we've had a little bit of rain this morning. That grass is slippy, as you can see, but fair play to Frederick Lubin. He's dug himself off one side. The lock means he's got to drive on the grass on the other, weaving the tyres. Just lost the car completely. Didn't have enough heat in them, didn't have the traction, and spins onto the grass. That, on your outlet from the pits, is a little ordinary. But anyway, he now skips the long circuit, goes through that Foster's loop, which is the way the cars are brought round onto the grid to save time here. Then they get the full warming up lap, of course, to come once the countdown has been completed. So Frederick Lubin is the rather red-faced driver, therefore, who is looking to improve on 13th place from yesterday's race as the cars now come down through the right-hand room lodge corner. Oulton Park is a great driver's circuit, lots of undulation. It's a real challenge, not the easiest to overtake at, because it's not that wide. You go back to the 1950s, 1960s, Formula 1 races, non-championship Formula 1 races for the stars of the time were held here. Even fast forward to the early 80s, the British Formula 1 Championship was running here. But as racing cars have got wider, there's little that you can do to make Oulton Park wider. So it is what it is, and it now really does put the onus on drivers to qualify well and to be really brave in overtaking and try and force an error out of the car ahead. Well, Zach O'Sullivan has had a mighty season thus far, and he lines up on pole position with Luke Browning with him at the front of the grid. Good to have Luke coming into the championship, having been racing this year in the German and Italian F4 championships. In the German, he's 5th overall with a win. And in the Italian, he's had a podium out of his 3 races. But last year, he was the British F4 champion. Had a really good season in which he took 7 wins. But of course, the man he beat in the title is the man he's on the front row with here, Zach O'Sullivan. That's Bart Horston. He lines up 4th on the grid alongside Roberto Faria. Bart Horston's had a really frustrating season. He desperately needs a race win, really. It's well overdue. He was 4th in the race yesterday. And as the field forms up then, the race director David Scott, if he's content, will give the indication that the formation lap can get underway. That green flag is shown at the back, 1 minute board shown to the drivers, and this the 20th round of the championship. So there, the green flag lap legend shown to the drivers. As I say, they get that short lap round to the grid, and then the full warming up lap to get the warmth into the Pirelli rubber on which everybody runs in this championship. It's the same base car for everybody. The Tachus chassis, the Manchun power plant in the back of it. And there the drivers are formed up, ready to go. We have this weekend 17 of them. There's the green flag that waves everybody away onto this all-important lap to generate a bit of warmth into the tyres. You've seen the importance of that in the context of Frederick Lubin having his off just now. But as the field turns down through Old Hall Corner, it is not the warmest of days, so we're getting heat into the tyres of extra importance right now. So Zach O'Sullivan is the man who starts on pole position, with Luke Browning with him at the front of the grid. Roberto Faria lines up third, the Brazilian with Bart Horston from Australia fourth on this very cosmopolitan grid, ahead of Australian Christian Mansell and the Spanish driver Javier Sagrera. Carlin and Elite Motorsport drivers respectively. AYRTON Simmons, who's been a multiple winner this year, is seventh on the grid, ahead of Tom Levin, the reigning Ginetta Junior champion. Ninth is Rhys Ushijima, and Frederick Lubin rounds out the top 10 on the grid. 11, Sebastian Alvarez. Roman Balinski, who's been a winner this year in his part season, he lines up 12th. Roman Balinski having already had a couple of race wins. And then 13th on the grid is going to be Brandon Oxley, ahead of Formula Ford Festival winner Jonathan Brown for Hill Speed. 15th is where you'll find Bryce Aaron, a long way back. Mikkel Grunweg, a winner this year in a reverse grid race, starts next. And at the rear of the grid is Rima Jafali. Now, tyres, the next thing to tick off the list. Who is using what? Well, you get a given number for the weekend, manage that as best you can. So Zach O'Sullivan is on a half new set, a used set for Luke Browning with him at the front, used tyres also for Faria, and half a set, in other words 2 news for Bart Horston, 2 new tyres for Christian Mansell, used all round for Sagrera, 2 new tyres for Simmons. Also, I'll just tell you those that are on the news, or a combination of news. Rhys Ushijima, 2 new tyres. 2 new tyres for Jonathan Brown, Bryce Aaron, Mikkel Grunweg. But, and I'm not quite sure why you would do this from the back of the grid necessarily, on a track that's hard to overtake at. Rima Jafali, we are told, is on a full new set. Now that might give them the chance to gain places, but I would have thought that it would have been a better idea to have done that on a reverse grid race from the front. However, that's the decision that has been taken, and we understand that she's on new rubber as the cars now then come down towards Lodge Corner, turn right, out of Dearly. You see the energy that Zach O'Sullivan is putting into the car as he tries to urge the warmth into the Pirelli rubber, the runner-up in last year's F4 British Championship, and he was very, very disappointed that he lost the chance to win that because of an early red flag and no restart to the race. Missed out by the narrowest of margins, but he may well put all that right this weekend by the end of the day by winning in the GB3 Championship. He needs to be outscoring Mansell, Faria, Simmons, Ushijima and Horston. It's Zach O'Sullivan, the championship leader from Christian Mansell, Roberto Faria third, Ayrton Simmons fourth, Rhys Ushijima fifth, Bart Horston is sixth. As long as he's taking points away from them and ends up 151 clear by the end of the weekend, he's 126 to the good now. The championship is his. He might not need all of that margin because that calculation is based on the maximum number of cars that could exist at Donington. We might not get that entry, we'll see. The lights go red. When the lights go out now, we are racing, and a good start is made by Zach O'Sullivan. Then from pole position he leads as the cars accelerate down towards Old Hall Corner for the first time. Claims the advantage. Luke Browning tries to go right round the outside of him. They're absolutely wheel to wheel coming out of the corner. And for the inside line at Cascades, Luke Browning in the red and white Fortec livery is going to be able to go through on the inside, and he does so. Zach O'Sullivan, thinking about points all the while here, knows not to get in strife, slots in behind somebody that is not a championship threat to him. So the cars accelerate their way down towards Island Bend for the first time. Look at the margin they pulled already. Luke Browning is clear up front then. In second place, right there on his tail, you've got the championship leader, Zach O'Sullivan. The rest of them come pouring out of Shell Oil's corner for the first time, a slightly sideways Javier Sagrera in the pack. Now third, Roberto Faria. He started third on the grid, and there's drama there as 1 or 2 scramble their way down through Fulstons, and that was Rhys Ushijima, I fear, number 13. He was being caught out. Frederick Lubin comes up alongside him. And the cars now accelerate down towards Hislops, then into Knickerbrook through that right, left of Hislops, then the right of Knickerbrook corner itself. The climb now up the hill. Race leader Luke Browning trying to edge away from Zach O'Sullivan, who will be mindful that, yes, he wants as many points as he can, but he is not prepared to get himself in strife and lose out. Luke Browning, even though he's a newcomer to the championship, can score points. It's not that he's invisible for the purposes of points as the challenge is made there. Look, a real dive up the inside by Roman Bielinski, and he goes through. Bielinski started 12th on the grid, and he's forging his way up through the traffic now. So there's proof you can overtake if you're brave around Oulton Park. 1 of 13 in the book. Down towards Old Hall corner goes SEBASTIAN ALVAREZ on the inside. Bielinski tries his move on the outside, runs it way out wide there. Gains an advantage, you could argue, by sitting on the concrete on the outside line, and he's going to make that place his on the inside line into Cascades. That forces ALVAREZ out wide as well. Brandon OXLEY trying to gain ground in the Chris Dittman Racing entry there, but Roman Bielinski is on an absolute mission. We always knew he was a hard-charging driver, double winner this year, and he goes toe-to-toe there with the traffic coming up towards us, and so too does ALVAREZ, battling with the car of Jonathan Brown. So Brown on the attack, but to no avail. In fact, he's in danger of losing a place rather than gaining, but Bielinski, having worked his way through that traffic, is getting away as the cars now skip through the Britain chicane, up over the brow of the hill, and then down towards Hislops and Knickerbrook. That's Bryce Aaron, number 23. He's chipping his way forward up from the back of the grid. He was 15th of the 17 cars on the grid. The American driver racing here for the first time in one of these cars and struggling a little bit, it seemed, in the qualifying session yesterday. At the end of the opening lap, Luke Browning faster by, what, about 6/10 over that opening lap from the standing start, trying to build that advantage over Zach O'Sullivan. Let's see whether it's going to be an increased margin come the end of this lap, or whether O'Sullivan has got anything in terms of retaliation really now as the cars turn their way through Lodge Corner out of Deer Leap. Here are the leaders, then the top two go down towards Old Hall Corner, and it is Browning from O'Sullivan, and the gap is down because ZOS, Zach O'Sullivan, does the fastest lap of the race, a 1:31.907. It's Zach's dad's birthday today, so the best birthday present, I suspect, would be if Zach O'Sullivan could win the championship for him. Out of Old Hall Corner they turn, down now towards Denton's and then Cascades. Luke round that and onto Lakeside Straight. And right now Luke Browning is under attack. Gotta say, he's adapted to these cars very quickly indeed. Yes, Fortec, good team. Yes, good brains trust there to help him with the data. But even so, this is a mighty impressive effort, taking on the people that have been racing them all season and being ahead of them. Not only that, but Roberto Faria, I reckon he's closing up in third place now. So Roberto Faria in the first sector, yes, lapping quicker than the leader. That means the top three concertinaing, and Zach O'Sullivan needs now, not that he's not trying anyway, but he needs to get on with the job, doesn't he? Try and clear the leader before Faria arrives on his tail. In fourth place is Bart Halston, fifth is Christian Mansell. So it is Fortec versus Carlin versus Fortec, first, second and third. Fortec and Carlin, who have been mainstays of the British F3, now GB3 scene for decades. Out of Druids goes Roberto Faria then. A Brazilian driver who came into the championship towards the back end of last year's sort of half season of racing, everything crammed into half of the year, of course, and he got a podium at Silverstone, but the 17-year-old Brazilian then comes out of Deer Leap, chasing after Zach O'Sullivan, who now makes that run down towards Old Hall Corner, still chasing after Luke Browning. The pit bulls go out, they dive right into the right-hander, the first corner on the lap. But on that lap around, it looks like Luke Browning might just be extending the advantage over O'Sullivan, and now the fastest lap is done by Faria. So Roberto Faria, fastest lap of the race. He took 2/10 out of the two cars ahead of him last time around, so he's chipping away. Goes through Island Bend now, and then into the right of Shallow Oils Corner, that banked corner. In fourth place, Bart Halston, ahead of fellow countryman Christian Mansell. Javier Sagrera runs sixth. We're on lap number 4 out of the 13 as the three leaders again, concertina through Britons. There is Halston. Really frustrating season for Bart. Knows the cars well, came into this year with pretty high hopes, but although there's been a third place at Silverstone and in the first visit and a second at Silverstone last event out, it's just not delivered the results consistently enough. Christian Mansell has had 2 race wins. He's looked very strong this year. So Christian Mansell then up into 5th place, Sagrera 6th. Ayrton Simmons runs 7th. There in the background in the red and yellow and black Chris Dittman Racing entry for Elite ahead of him is Javier Sagrera. Elite that bought the assets of Landon Racing, and Eddie Ives' team came into the championship this season and has done a really good job indeed, adapting to a whole new type of racing after a lot of success in Ginessa's, mainly in Ginessa Juniors. The leaders go by. There the three of them are, down towards Old Hall Corner again. Further down the order, Tom Leben there goes through. He is in the 10th spot, the reigning Ginetta Junior champion. Now, Tom knows Oulton Park up to a point from Ginessa's last year, but of course the Toka package runs on the slightly shorter layout. So instead of going left at Island Bend, they take the Island hairpin, which comes up now on the right-hand side. But on this configuration, you've got the extra loop, which was the original circuit, all the way down to what used to be Esso, now Shell Oil's Corner. Through that right-hander, back onto the power, out the other side. Now there's Sebastian Alvarez on the attack, trying to get back ahead of Roman Belinsky. Belinsky has sort of plateaued a bit in 11th place. Alvarez there runs 12th as they come down towards the Hislop chicane. Rhys Ushijima, who had that purple patch at Silverstone with a couple of race wins and then faded a little bit, was somewhat inconsistent thereafter. He's dropped away within the championship as well, down to 5th, having been at one stage the main rival. And big strife there, because that is Brandon Oxley getting it all wrong. Spins coming out of Knickerbrook, ran wide, you saw over the curb onto the grass, and then the car started to break traction and around it went. So Brandon Oxley pirouettes down the order. Let's have another look. He was up behind Sebastian Alvarez. Did he get in the dirty air? Well, he certainly ran out wide. At that stage onto the grass it looked okay, but the line was such that eventually traction broke, and those behind were pretty lucky not to get involved in all of that. And I think possibly Jonathan Brown was the other casualty, in as much as he had to slow considerably to avoid contact and got mugged in the process. So Bryce Aaron up into 13th, staying 14th, Jonathan Brown, but Brandon Oxley is going to be last when he gets going, assuming that he does get back towards the timing line. Fastest lap of the race now, Zack O'Sullivan, he's on the mission. And this battle pack currently running 8th, 9th, 10th. Rhys Ushijima on the back here of Frederick Lubin. Look. Lubin goes wide, and is that going to give a chance now? Yes, it does, to Ushijima on the outside line into Shell. Wheel to wheel, the American-Japanese driver right round the outside of Lubin. That was very impressive indeed. Really good pass, and it's worked for him. So there, Tom Leben now tries to capitalise. Frederick Lubin gained ground earlier on, and now tries to power his way further up the pecking order as the cars swing their way out of the Knickerbrook right-hander. So up towards Druids they come, and they're the three race leaders, not quite as one, but Luke Browning with this, what, half a second in hand from Zack O'Sullivan, fastest lap of the race last time around. And as they now accelerate their way down to Lodge Corner, it is up front then the newcomer to the championship, Luke Browning, over the line, half a second last time. What's the margin this time around? 0.4 of a second, so it is close, but still Zack O'Sullivan not able to really force the issue, assuming he wants to, because he's savvy enough, and the Carlin guys will have talked him through this. Bank points. Luke Browning is absolutely no threat in the championship. Doesn't have a point to his name, having been excluded from the one race that he's done. So Zack O'Sullivan is staying ahead of everybody in the championship that could be considered a threat. That's exactly what he needs to do in the race. It would be another big step closer to the championship. Now, if he can apply pressure and force an error out of Luke Browning and get him to open the door, huzzah. But if that doesn't happen, he can just bank the points for second place. This is lap 7 out of 13. In terms of time, we've just literally tipped over the halfway mark. We've just gone now over the 10-minute mark, so into the second part of the race. So we're going to be good for the laps, I would have thought, barring a safety car in all of this, as the cars now make their way once more out of Hislops and then through Knickerbrook. Behind, Bart Horston 4th, Christian Mansell is 5th, 6th, Javier Sagrera, Ayrton Simmons 7th, 8th, Rhys Ushijima ahead of Lubin and Leben, and there they are together with Belinsky 11th and Alvarez 12th. Bryce Aaron is 13th, and the rest come filing through, including Rima Jafali there, who from last on the grid has gained a couple of places on her full new set of tyres. Up now into 15th spot ahead of Donington winner Mikkel Grundtvig and spinner Brandon Oxley. And there Tom Leben tries to find a way up ahead of Lubin as they round Druids out of that right-hander down towards Lodge. Underneath the Bailey Bridge they come. Race leaders in the meantime have just gone diving down towards Old Hall Corner, but Tom Leben there right on the back now of Frederick Lubin, who had that spin to the grid, and he's desperately trying to make his way up through the order, but it's not happening because he's dropped away from Ushijima and he's under attack. Look, Leben tries to go to the outside line and can't do it. Race leaders work lap 8 here at Oulton Park. Race 2 in the GB3 Championship in association with the BRDC, and it is round 20 of the series with just Donington Park's events to come, and it looks as though it's looking very, very good for Zach O'Sullivan. He could end the day as a champion. Strange to think, as we've got in other championships as well here this weekend, that we could be crowning champions relatively early in the season. That said, there are still plenty of other battles going on for points and for places, as right now Tom Leben gives energetic chase, does he not, to Frederick Lubin as they come through Britain's 9th and 10th they run. And there is Lubin, Leben behind. And then it's Belinsky versus Alvarez, who tries the outside line, and there's contact which was inevitable. He skates across the road. Somehow he gets avoided there just by Bryce Aaron, but that was very, very close indeed. I suppose Alvarez had to give it a go, but it's always a risk trying to overtake at Hislops, especially on the outside. Here it comes. Look, he's never fully alongside. He brakes so late, then tries to turn in, by which stage, committed to the corner was Belinsky. And I'm afraid to say, although you kind of take your hat off to Alvarez for trying, it was never going to pay out for him, that, and the net result is that he will plummet down the order. So leaders go through. Browning and O'Sullivan is still 4/10 of a second. This is Frederick Lubin versus Tom Leben once again, down towards Old Hall corner. Leben tries to get a tighter line out of it, but can't do it, and a yellow flag waves down at Cascades, because that's Javier Sagrera who has gone off the road, and he was 6th. Sagrera has gone a long way off the road, has he not? So that's down at Cascades. He's almost got to Knickerbrook, so far off has he gone. But anyway, Javier Sagrera, really disappointing that, because he's been getting quicker and quicker and quicker all season. He's off the road, he's had a 2nd place as his best, but he ain't going to get a finish out of race 2 here. And there he is in the background. It's wrong as he comes into shot, so potentially either hooking a wheel onto the grass or missing his braking point. Either way, the car snaps around. Looking at the witness marks there, I don't think he got a wheel on the grass, just braked too late, tried to turn in, and then the car got away from him. So, in the gravel is Javier Sagrera. Does that car stay there under a waved yellow flag? Can the marshals get that move with a snatch vehicle? Or are we going to have, you know what, the safety car? There, Rima Jafali comes through Hislops, now through Knickerbrook. On the climb up Clay Hill, underneath the Bailey Bridge, the footbridge at the top of Clay Hill, I should say, towards Druids. There is Javier Sagrera out of the car. Now, where are we up to? We're on lap number 10. The leaders go by with 4/10 of a second between them. Roberto Faria, again, does the fastest lap of the race. He's rather been trading that with Zach O'Sullivan, and the marshals there, bravely trying to get that car out of harm's way. So if they can push that clear, we won't need an interruption. We're on lap 10. The race leaders accelerate along Lakeside Straight, and there you can see the limited margin between the top two now, 4/10 of a second. That's all that we've got between them. Roberto Faria is the other driver in this, thinking about biding his time, about waiting for dramas to kick off ahead of him. And there is the moment. Luke Browning hits the curb. That unsettles the car through Britain's, and now Zach O'Sullivan is on the attack to the outside. It's not necessarily the right place to be coming into Hislops, but if he can brake really, really late, and chances are there's going to be wheel-to-wheel contact. There is. It forces O'Sullivan off the road. He's heading for the tyres, is he? Yes! Championship leader into the tyre barrier, and having said he wasn't going to force the issue, an opportunity presented, but he should have backed out of that just a fraction sooner. Hindsight is a wonderful thing, but Zach O'Sullivan is off the road, and that is a kick to the championship hopes, because there, race win points, or second place points that look at worst for 29 of them, have just gone begging. Could he get the car out of the barriers and keep going and try and salvage anything out of the race? Debatable, as now Fortec has a 1-2, and so Luke Browning, he was the first one to make the error. He clattered the curb coming out of Hislops. That's what gave O'Sullivan the chance. But in the net outcome, it is a Fortec 1-2. Browning ahead of Faria. Bart Horston gets up to 3rd. Now remember that Faria and Horston and Mansell and Simmons, they're all chasing in the championship. They're not just taking a few points back here, they're going to take a big number, because if O'Sullivan is out of the race, he will not score a thing. So Roberto Faria has done the fastest lap of the race. Now, for the championship, it would be quite helpful if Browning let him by. But it's every man for himself, isn't it, in this? They're all paying to race. It's not a category where team orders are going to come, but Roberto Faria, with more experience of the car, has got that gap right down. You saw another little mistake by Luke Browning going through Shell. Over the brow they come, and now down towards Hislops, towards Knickerbrook. So Zach O'Sullivan then, after that drama, and it was at this part of the circuit that did for him. The car is there, look, stranded by the side of the circuit. Zach is out of it, watching what's going on. It was just as we had seen with Sebastian Alvarez earlier, wasn't it? Try the outside line. And yes, you are able to go around the outside if you're really brave and if you've got the extra momentum to get the job done really coming into the corner. You could argue Browning could have given him more room, but he was on the line. I'm sure that discussions will rage on after the race, as now Faria tries to unsettle Luke Browning for the race lead, and he's also got to be mindful of Horston and Mansell, the two Australians that are closing up as well. And there, look, a really weird line up Deer Leap. Luke Browning is feeling the pressure. Roberto Faria on the outside line down towards Old Horn. He's got his nose in front, but it's the longer, slower line. So back on the inside comes Browning, and off they both go. One spins, one on the grass, then they spin together, and that now means that Bart Horston out of nowhere is in the lead of the race. Can you believe it? They were so committed to battling for the race lead, they both ran wide, suddenly lost traction. That grass just a little bit more slippery because of the brief rain that we had this morning, and so now the two Australian drivers go toe-to-toe. Bart Horston versus Christian Mansell. They were nowhere a lap ago, and now suddenly it is game on for the race lead, and Bart Horston has not yet had a win this year. So the two of them, nose to tail. This is lap 12 out of 13. Assuming they survive. You've got also in third place now AYRTON SIMMONS, but this has turned out to be quite a race. Bart Horston has not yet had a win in one of these cars, whether it was in last year's F3 or this year's GB3 iteration or title. We've got another yellow flag being waved on the approach to Old Hall Corner because of the two Fortec cars. I'm assuming one, if not both, have yet to get going. And so, if Bart Horston hangs on to win this, there are a lot of people he's got to go and buy a drink for post-race, because they have pretty much thrown themselves at the scenery, and through he has come. He might not have had the pace, but he's had the composure not to hurl the car off the racetrack. Down towards Lodge Corner. One more lap to go, and a red light is on. The red flag goes out. So the race is being stopped. The race is stopped. Now, don't forget, you have to be running at the time of the red flag. So the likes of Faria and Browning were not, but it's a bit of a concern that we've had to red flag it. There you can see the car, that was Roberto Faria, is in the barrier, and he's done barrier damage as well, but the race is stopped. Thumbs up from Jamie Caroline there, who appreciate what's going on, but now we need to have that result confirmed. But of course, if you're not running at the time of the red flag, you're taken out of the result. So we'll now wait and have confirmation. This is what happened to Zach O'Sullivan. Let's just pick off all the incidents. He's on the outside of Browning. He was never fully ahead. He gets on the grass. Look, he's all locked up, skates across the triangle, then skates into the tyres on the other side. Bang. This was for the race lead then. Faria is on the outside line. Back on the inside comes Luke Browning. So Browning gets the lead. And was there a little clip of the two? I think there was. Yeah, Faria just tagged the back, didn't he, as his line converged with that of Browning, but Faria hits that tyre barrier very hard indeed, and the race is brought to a halt then. So confirmation of the result will come. The race director will be discussing with the timekeepers who was running at the time of the stoppage. Already the Oulton Park track staff are out to go and attend to the barrier damage. It's not just the cars that are in an awkward place, but barrier damage as well, and there's no point putting out a safety car because the cars would not get a racing lap in. So we have had the result shown at the end of 10 laps, which still keeps Browning ahead of Faria, but they were not running at the time of the red flag, so we'll await confirmation. This is what the timing screen is showing us right now, with provisionally a win for Luke Browning ahead of Roberto Faria, then Bart Horston from Christian Mansell, AYRTON SIMMONS from Rhys Ushijima ahead of Frederick Lubin, Tom Leben, Roman Belinsky and Bryce Aaron. So the checkered flag shown to confirm that there will not be a restart, because the cars were just about to start the last lap of the race, and gradually the timing screen is updating itself. Luke Browning has been taken out of the result, and I'm anticipating that Roberto Faria will be as well, which would therefore, yes, confirm Bart Horston is the winner. So the timing screen has just updated. Ignore what you're seeing on your result graphic there because the top two did not participate at the time of the stoppage, and it therefore means that Bart Horston, Christian Mansell and AYRTON Simmons will be the top 3 drivers, because if you're not running at the time of the stoppage, you're not counted in the race result. So no points for Roberto Faria, and Bart Horston, who was at one stage 4th, ends up as a race winner in one of the strangest ways to end a GB3 race that we have had. These things happen, but out of nowhere, suddenly that was a race that was completely turned on its head. So Bart Horston, the race winner by half a second from Christian Mansell. And this is how the amended result will be, or the confirmed result, with those drivers that weren't running at the time of the stoppage taken out of the result. It means that Bart Horston wins from Christian Mansell and AYRTON Simmons. Rhys Ushijima 4th ahead of Frederick Lubin, and then Tom Levin in 6th place. 7th to Roman Belinsky ahead of Bryce Aaron, and then Jonathan Brown, with Rima Jafali 10th from Mikkel Grundtvig, Brandon Oxley. And then the last car to survive the dramas was that, and he had his own spin, Sebastian Alvarez. So there's a bit of tidying up to be done before the next cars head to the circuit, and the drivers within GB3 in association with the BRDC will be back on track a little bit later on. They race again at, all being well, 15:40, but that might just slip a little bit if we have a day of dramas. There's anything like the touring car meeting here. They might race on Tuesday. But Bart Horston is a delighted man indeed. Half a second was his margin over Christian Mansell. Little did he know that was a margin that would be the race-winning margin come the end of a truncated race for GB3. Zach O'Sullivan will be kicking himself. The only consolation is that Roberto Faria did not score. But even so, big frustration for him. Zach will drive that car hopefully back, depending on the level of damage. Might need a tow, but there he is then as still championship leader, but sadly, from his point of view, it's going to make winning it here even more difficult before the end of the day. It's doable, but might be a bigger ask now than earlier on. So the drivers from that dramatic end to our second GB3 race of the weekend go to Parc Fermé, thence to the presentations, and we'll see whether we can grab a word with Bart Horston, with Christian Mansell and AYRTON Simmons, but Zach O'Sullivan back out of his car and suggesting that the damage is such that it is going to need a tow, and he's going to have to assist with the operation here. So Zach gets one more race to try and score points a little bit later on, but yeah, that's certainly been a disappointing start to the day, especially when it looked that he was so strong and so composed and was going to be on target for points. But Bart Horston's first ever win in British F3/GB3. Christian Mansell taking second for an Australian 1-2, and AYRTON Simmons a good result to have him on that podium as well. So one more race for the cars still to come during the course of the day. Let's have a look at the highlights of our second race that began with that good start from Zach O'Sullivan from pole position, but from the outside of the front row, Luke Browning taking the fight to him as they dive down towards Old Hall Corner, and as the two of them ran side by side into the right, it was that slightly better start by Luke Browning that set him up for a really good attack on the opening lap round the outside at Old Hall. That put him on the inside for Cascades, and that's where he got the job done to swing through and take over the advantage. Battles further down the order, slightly delayed out of all of that was Rhys Ushijima. That gave Frederick Lubin the chance to attack as they made that climb up towards Hilltop. Sebastian Alvarez was also attacking Brandon Oxley, and he moved his way through on the inside. Oxley then had his spin coming out of Knickerbrook. Around it went. Jonathan Brown had to lift in avoidance, and he lost a place as well. Ushijima on the attack round the outside of Frederick Lubin. A really good pass that. Lubin then came under attack from Tom Levin. By that stage, Ushijima would go away up the road. Drama part 1, Javier Sagrera off the road. Drama part 2, mistake by Browning, and that gave Zach O'Sullivan the chance to challenge. And then contact down at his locks as into the tyres went Zach O'Sullivan. So he was a retirement. That gave us Browning versus Roberto Faria for the race win. Contact between those two fired both of them off the racetrack, and it also brought out the red flag. So a race win for Bart Horston ahead of Christian Mansell, and then the third place come the end of the race, AYRTON SIMMONS. So there are lots of cars that still need to be retrieved from around Oulton Park. And the drivers making their way, I think, now to the podium. But there is Zach O'Sullivan's car still needing retrieval. There's AYRTON SIMMONS on the podium. There, going up for his second place, is Christian Mansell and Bart Halston, who will be a very happy man. It might have been a surprise win and a very long overdue one, but it's the top step of the podium, and Bart Halston is a very, very happy driver. It looked at Brands Hatch at the start of the season like a win might be heading his way, but then there was that contact with AYRTON SIMMONS. Halston, remember, ended up atop his car, but here Bart Halston is atop the podium, and a mighty effort indeed. So there we have our top three drivers, and Bart Halston, race winner, is about to pose for yet more photographs. Seize the moment, because it's been a long time coming, this, the best part of 2 seasons, but Bart Halston certainly deserves that. He's been one of the hardest triers in the championship, and we might be able to hear from our race winner, because Bryn Lucas is down there for us. Bryn.
Yeah, I am indeed, with a very, very happy race winner, Bart Halston here. Your first win in this one, what does it mean for you? Because it was, as the commentator team was saying, a surprise win, maybe.
Yeah, not the way I maybe expected, but you can't really expect anything in motorsport. I think I've learned that in my time. You know, I've had a lot of races where I've been on the other end of that, where I've, you know, maybe been at the front and then made a costly error or been caught up in an incident and then fallen back and gone, thinking of what could have been. So it's a bit weird to have it the other way around and to be the recipient of the first position, because it is just that hard to pass here in our cars. So, but again, thanks to the team, because it's not just, we took the opportunity today, but I think the reason, you know, why you get this result is we've been working so hard, especially the last few weekends, to put ourselves in a really good position. And even when we haven't quite had the speed, like this weekend was a really struggle for us compared to the other rounds. I think we still worked as hard as we could, and I mean, it's just great to get the first win, but not how I thought it might happen. Yeah.
Like you said, doesn't matter how it comes, as long as it comes. Well done, a great win. Yeah, and Adders, back to you.
Bryn, thanks very much, Bart. Well done, because that was a great drive. Yes, it was a surprise win, but a win is a win, and he certainly deserved that after all the effort he's put in these last couple of seasons in GB3. One more race for them to come at 20-4, but we'll be back for that, and we'll see exactly what sort of drama the third race of the weekend serves up. For now, from Oulton Park, from David Addison, it's goodbye.